everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's time to talk some more Legends of Tomorrow. This week's episode was The Magnificent Eight, and finally we have the, for some, long-anticipated Western episode where we meet Jonah Hex, and we get to see our heroes in period clothes, riding horses, and going in shootouts, and having bar fights, and really just every Western cliche you can possibly imagine. We are making fun of that period, we are homaging that period, we are straight up doing a silly cartoon Western set in that time. It is really generic, like a lot of these episodes have been with their various periods, and it's but it's fun at the same time. I can't take this show seriously. I don't want to say any more. I don't think I ever have really been able to totally take this show seriously. And like I said last week, it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon tie-in that's done in live action and stops every now and again to make sure and remind you that it's supposed to be a serious drama. And this episode is no different. There's stuff I like here, and a lot of it is superficial. The problem is this show keeps losing me with premise. It's like, we're gonna hide out in this particular year and hope the Time Masters can't find us, and we're just gonna sit here for a little while. And this is a place that, for whatever reason, and forgive me if I miss some details here and there, I am not real invested in the show. I'm trying. But we go back to the late 1800s, and and this is a time that Rip Hunter knows he's gonna be able to hide from the bounty hunters that the Time Masters have sent after them, and he just wants to stay there for a little bit and not leave the ship and make sure that they don't cause any more havoc and mess with the timeline any more than they already have. And what happens? Everybody wants to leave the ship because they're sightseers before they're anything else, and they're supposed to be, as Rip Hunter says, they have a mission to do, but these guys have not learned anything, just as I keep complaining about every week, and they are really all of them, and they're more worried about having a good time and experiencing different histories than they are about what their actual mission is, and they are about preserving the timeline and making sure that, once again, that they get born and that things that they don't ruin everything in the future. And we're starting to do that thing that the CW shows tend to do when fans complain enough about them. I've talked about this a lot, where it's gotten more self-aware about things slightly, where it'll make fun of itself and have a throwaway line where it basically says, yes, we realize we're doing this, but we're lazy and we're not going to actually plot our stories any better or develop our characters any more. We're just going to pay it lip service and move on. And they do that with this exchange where Sarah is like, what would be the harm of going out and hanging out in the West? And then Stein says, with this group, you clearly haven't been paying attention. And that's hilarious, especially that Stein would say that, because he's been as much of a problem as anybody else with regards to just wanting to gallivant around and with paying no mind to butterfly effect and what kind of harm they might cause. So the whole idea is that this is a period that Rip Hunter doesn't want to experience again because it's too painful for him. This was his favorite period of history. He's like Doc Brown. He really loves the 1800s and the Old West, and he wishes that he could live the rest of his life there. We are getting a little bit more background from him, and we're drawing him a little bit more, and I like some of the stuff with him actually quite a bit. The idea that he was living in that period and wanted to live out the rest of his life there, and was forced to go back to the Time Masters and to continue on doing that because of his duty to his family and to his wife. And so he had to leave, and the consequences for his leaving were he had kind of become a hero in this little town. And they had come to depend on him too much, and I like that. That's a major superhero trope, the line between inspiring people and having them depend on you too much, so that if anything ever happened to you, would they actually learn to get along for themselves from your example, or would they just fall apart because you're not there, and then you've actually left things worse than you found them? And that's what had happened with Rip Hunter, and the lesson that our characters sort of kind of learn here, although I think by the end of the day we don't really come down on it the way the episode maybe thinks it's coming down on it. I don't know that these characters ever learn anything, because I think we kind of regress them back every episode so that we can do things like this. I just feel like you ought to be able to come up with a better reason to leave the ship than Palmer saying, I would kick myself if I didn't get to experience the Old West. Oh, that's a good reason. And that's a good reason to give everybody guns. Yeah, let's do that. You know, at the very least, Rip Hunter, maybe don't give them guns. Maybe tell them take your lives into your own hands if you want to go out in this kind of dangerous period where it's literally the Old West and people might shoot you for looking at them wrong. The timeline is maybe not going to get too messed up if you die, but if you pull out a gun and shoot someone, that could be a big problem. So here's an idea. Maybe don't worry so much about their protection. Maybe have them, like, sign a waiver or something and be like, okay, if you die in the Old West, I can't be held accountable. This is a dumb idea. But I digress. So, I like that idea that Rip Hunter wanted to live in the past because he was an idealist, and he's, of course, become much more cynical as he's gotten older and as he's understood the timeline more. Glad somebody understands this timeline and how time travel works. And and there was a time when he loved living in the Old West just because he could be heroic and go around saving people, and it presented a lot of opportunities to do that. And I like how we're kind of paralleling the Old West and you know Western stories, two superhero stories, where those two settings, the Old Western town setting and the urban modern street setting, both give you opportunities to be a hero. That was really cool. That was a really cool idea. I hadn't really thought about that before in exactly articulating it that way, although of course that's a very that's very classic with superheroes, that you know, Batman and other superheroes kind of come out of Zorro. That's what Zorro was, an old Western hero, that and even the Lone Ranger, you know, guys that ride around on horses, have a disguise, and have these opportunities that crop up everywhere because there aren't enough heroes. There's not enough law enforcement. There aren't enough people out to help you as there are, to the number of people that are out to steal from you and rob you and murder you, and those sorts of things. And so I liked it. I like coming out and spelling that out, I guess, and that's okay. Jonah Hex is here, and we don't do a great deal with him. He is basically the big victim of what happened with Rip Hunter. They used to be friends. I like their history a lot, and Rip Hunter's leaving led to the destruction of Jonah Hex's town, and so he has kind of a beef with him for that, especially when he finally discovers that Rip Hunter knew that was going to happen, and he comes to understand a little bit more when he realizes, oh yes, of course, and I don't know how he wouldn't have come to this conclusion because he knew he was a time traveler, but when Jonah Hex realizes, oh yes, of course, you're a time traveler, you came from the future, you knew all this was going to happen, and I can't begrudge you for helping us, but that makes it harder to begrudge you for leaving when you had family you cared about, and what I lost was my family. And I like the way they make up in the end. That whole thing's okay. I'd like to see Jonah Hex pop up again. I'd like to see him come to the future and deal with one of our other shows there, either Arrow or Flash. I think it'd be a lot of fun to see him. But everything here, as is so often true of this show, is just really easy and sloppy. We immediately have a shootout, a bar brawl, and then our characters trying to tamper with the timeline and help people because they immediately, again, find opportunities to help. But the problem is it all happens too fast, and like I said, it's too easy. Like, if you were trapped in this period like Palmer and Kendra were trapped in the 50s, and you started to develop ties to people, and you started seeing people, as I've said with these time travel things a lot, as real people and not characters in history, I could totally understand your feeling the need to start interfering, but these guys are just out on a sightseeing trip, and immediately they start going, oh no, these people need our help, we better do something, and they've dealt with this enough, they ought to know that they should just stay in the spaceship, and that's why I just can't even get past the premise to really discuss the details of this one. I don't even want to. I'm just like, I can't even get past the initial premise that they would leave the ship, or that Rip Hunter would let them leave the ship, but I guess I'll talk about it for a second. So you have Ray Palmer, who loves westerns and fancies himself as like an old western sheriff, and he gets his wish, again, very easily when he walks into the sheriff's office and asks if he needs help. The sheriff says, I'm totally sick of this, I'm done, do you have any experience in law enforcement? And he says, well, I fought crime, okay, that's good enough, and he hands him the badge, and he walks out, and it's a funny scene. I don't know where I stand with this show a lot, where I can't decide how much I'm supposed to be taking it seriously and how much of it is a tongue-in-cheek romp, and how much of it is a farce, and that's very farcical. They're not going back to the real Old West, they're going back to this silly, campy comic book version, but then I guess this world has become kind of a silly, campy comic book version of present day, ever since especially Arrow Season 3, even though as it was heightened, it was very Batman Begins, and of course, took from a lot of Nolan stuff early on, and was trying to be a little bit more real and grounded, and I guess now I'm supposed to just accept that we live in this very farcical reality. Don't think too much about it, except for when we want you to think a lot about it, and that's what frustrates me so much about it. So anyway, he becomes the sheriff, and he's got to deal with this gang, and at the end, there's a shootout, a high noon showdown that he's almost involved in, but instead it's Rip Hunter, and the whole thing ends in a big, giant superhero fight with laser guns blaring, and you basically get this cowboys versus aliens kind of fight, where you've got the laser guns going, and you've got the superpowers and firestorms flying around, and I do, like, again, butterfly effect, and I get the whole, like, time changes slowly thing, which is still weird to me, because I still think that would be a relative thing, and I still don't understand what that means, but whatever. But I'm kind of okay with this idea that nobody would believe these people and what they saw, so you could kind of get away with showing them all these things, and it might not change that much. One big thing that it would affect, certainly, is H.G. Wells. Don't you think that might be an inspiration for some of his science fiction stuff? And then we get into the problem of how much of what our characters is affecting are things that they had to have been involved in for history to turn out the way that it did, but it doesn't seem like it's the kind of time travel where it's this paradoxical, everything that happened always happened that way. We've had no discussion of that. They've been able to change things before, and they've screwed up the future. We had that whole Firestorm thing. So Am I supposed to believe, and there's no talk about this, am I supposed to be led to believe that without Stein, H.G. Wells would have died of tuberculosis and would not have grown up and written those books, and then we wouldn't have science fiction the way we know it. You wouldn't have the show, obviously, without that. That's meta, of course. That's neither here nor there, but I don't know if we're supposed to believe that these things always happened that way, or what exactly the deal is. And then, of course, all these meetings have been way too convenient. I'm a broken record. I mean, it's a formulaic show. We keep making the same mistakes. We keep doing the same character regression, so I don't know how to not repeat myself. The show's doing it, so I guess I have to. But you've got a meeting with Kendra and one of her former selves. They just happen to be in that town. This woman, okay. We can't come up with a more believable and clever way to contrive these things to happen. They're just there, and we're just supposed to accept it. That in this town you have now I'm thinking Nightmare Before Christmas. In this town, don't we love it now? You've got this older Kendra, who's one of her past lives. That actress was quite good, by the way. And then you also have a little kid, H.G. Wells, that almost dies of tuberculosis. Now, I do like that moment where he says his name is Wells, and there's this moment where Stein, and I'm sure the audience, is supposed to be thinking, oh wow, is this an ancestor of Harrison Wells? And then he says H.G. Wells, and then I just had a hard time not rolling my eyes. Also, isn't H.G. Wells British? I mean, I haven't looked into H.G. Wells' history in a long time. I don't think he was born in America. What's he even doing in that town? I just thought of that. Anyway, but like I said, superficially, there's some fun stuff in this. The actors are all clearly enjoying playing around in this particular setting and time period more than they have anything else. The costuming is awesome. I think everything looks really cool, and I've complained a lot that we don't feel like we're actually in the periods we're supposed to be in because we're making this a cartoon. That's working a lot better, and I especially like Sarah in period garb here. She is a lot of fun when she's in fights and stuff in that garb, and just Sarah with an old Western gun and stuff. I want that action figure. I hope they make a set of Legends of Tomorrow figures in the Old West. I'd buy those. I thought Sarah was a lot of fun in this episode. I like that. I mean, I still don't feel like she has as much dimension as she used to and as she ought to, but I did really like the idea that this is a period that she could sink her teeth into. She wishes that she could live in a time that's a little bit more simple, and where she can kind of talk with her fists and stuff. That's very Sarah Lance, and I like that a lot. Side note, because I haven't been getting to talk Arrow since we're doing the Crisis vlogs now, but we live in this topsy-turvy world now where Laurel Lance is dead, and Sarah Lance is alive again, this made-up character who is more the real Black Canary than Laurel Lance ever possibly could have been, and we still have her around, and we have no Laurel Lance. Although, in this universe, I don't buy anybody staying dead, because there are umpteen numbers of ways to bring them back. So anyway, you had that, and I thought that was a lot of fun. Then Kendra's whole character arc is about kind of being in this, what I think is a denial place by the end, of just ignoring what her past self tells her, that she's never going to be happy with anybody but Carter, and that, she makes her own decisions, and she has free will, and she can be with whoever she wants to, even though in millennia that has never worked out. And I want to say we'll see what happens. I think we all know what's going to happen. I think this relationship with Palmer will end in tragedy. No one will be surprised, and I, for one, and I know a lot of people feel the same way as I do, they have no investment in that relationship. I think the actors are doing a good job with it. I think they have enough chemistry. I just can't bring myself to care, because I can see the writing on the wall. I know where it's going to go. It kind of came out of nowhere, and I still say that those two people should have fallen in love in the first place in the past, when they were living together for 2 years, and then I would have bought it a lot more and would probably be more invested in it, and in her wanting so badly to not be forced into her destiny, and having to keep getting together with Carter every time. But I also thought the soundtrack in this was really fun, and I liked from the production side, everybody was having a lot of fun with this episode, and I liked taking the Old West theme that they came up with and doing that over the opening credits and stuff. It's a fun episode. It's a lot of fun to look at. I don't like to say this, I never like to do this, you've got to turn your brain off, or at least I do, to enjoy the show. And it's something that I can't quite bring myself to do, but I'm enjoying things about it, and just be a cartoon, and you're fine. Stop trying to get me to take you seriously, because you're not earning it, and it's not working. At the end, we've got this cliffhanger where the bounty hunter guys, I guess working for the Time Masters, are going after each of our characters in the past. So I wonder how long we'll be dealing with that. If that'll be one episode or if that'll be the next couple. And I like, and I guess there's this female, scary time-traveling chick that we're supposed to be leery of, that Rory knows about. I like Rory a lot right now. I think that we got him back in the team way too quickly, and our group is trusting him too much. The fact that they take him with them is ridiculous, into the old western town. There are other characters that it's kind of ridiculous they take with them too, but I won't get into that. But I don't know, I like what that actor is doing with it, that suddenly he's got all this knowledge, and he's more world-weary, and he's lived this whole other life, and he's still the same guy, and he's still really over the top and exaggerated, but he's also a little bit more street smart, and I guess time smart, and he seems to, in a way, kind of fit in better, and I figure we'd use him as an antagonist for the rest of the show, but I'm kind of enjoying him more as being this time expert, and having this other side of things that Rip Hunter doesn't have, and I don't know how he's going to continue to fit in as it goes along, but I'm intrigued by him, and I like the performance a lot. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you next week for more Legends of Tomorrow.